Hey guys, this is Alex with Excel in You. I want to take you through a scenario that you might come across in your profession or entrepreneurship. Have you ever seen a data table like this? We have columns of information, rows of information, and where they intersect, we're going to find answers. Now, the larger this data set is, the harder it can be to find answers. How do we automate this? The index formula is a great place to start. Index simply works like this: equals index, open parentheses. We select our array. We hit comma. We choose a row, and now this is starting from the top of the array going down, so this is row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll ignore the numbers on the side of Excel. So I can pick a random row like row 5. And then we select our column. And again, it's based off the array. So I can start from the top left corner and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll go 5 by 5 on this. And hit enter. And it's going to pull back the information from that particular cell. 5 rows down, 5 columns over, and this is what we get. That's only helpful if you already know the exact position based off of how the array is set up. So that's not very helpful if you need to be able to come back to this array multiple times to find information quickly. And especially if this is a really large array, this could be hundreds of rows, this could be dozens of columns. Let's make this easier. Let's make this a little bit more automated. Now, I've already done that work. And here's what it looks like. Here's our index. This is a simplified version. I have my index equals index open parentheses. I have my array A2 to M21. That's A2 to M21, the entirety of the data set. Then you see two cell references. P8 is there in place of our row indicator, and P9 is there in place of our column indicator. Let's jump over to these and see what they are representing. P8, that is this cell right here. It's our match margin. I called it the match margin because I'm using the match formula in this. And margin because I'm looking at the margin that I want to find. Notice the column header, margin. So under match margin, here is my formula. The match formula finds a relative position within an array. So it works like this: equals match open parentheses. O3 is our reference cell. That is the margin I've typed in here. The array is A2 to A21. A2 margin to A21, the last number of our margins. And 0 indicates the type of search. 0 represents an exact match. So if it's not an exact match to whatever is typed into O3, it will come back as an error, or it won't find anything at all. This match formula pulled back the relative position 10. So margin 2.5 is in row 10 of this array. The second reference I used was P9. That is here, the position percent. So I use this because we're finding the column position using the percent that I have listed here. Now, this one was tricky, and let me explain why. You notice that the column headers here are 0 to 10%, then 10 to 20%. These represent a 10% to the second decimal place value. So anything with that is represented within those numbers would fall into that column placement. Now, this is a data set that I got from somewhere else, that I did not create this data set. There may be other ways to create headers that could help you out, but because this data is automated and comes in on a daily basis, there's no time to make this change every single day just to make my formula work. Whereas the formula that I've created is plug and play. Every single day this sheet comes in, the same formula will work to find my position percentage. Here's what it looks like. A little complicated, but let me walk you through how this works and why. we're using the ifs formula. That means that there's more than one if condition. If A is true, then give me B. If C is true, then give me D. That's how this works. So how this reads is if 05, if our percent is greater than 90%, then our position is 13. That's our 13th position or 13th column in our array. Then we go down incrementally one column. If our percent is greater than 80%, then we're looking at the 12th column, and so on and so forth. Over 70% is the 11th column. 60% is the 10th column, all the way down through all of our percentages. Here's why it has to go in descending order. Remember that, descending order, because the if formula looks for the first correct answer. Always. Once it finds that first correct answer, it stops. It's no longer looking for any other correct answers. And that's because if it found more than one correct answer, how would it know which one to give us? So if you start this in ascending order, if you start this from 0 and go up to 10, well, guess what? Any percentage you put in, even 0.001%, is greater than 0%. So no matter what you put in, it's correct. The first thing it looks at is correct. So it would always reply with 4, column 4. The problem is, if my percentage is 65%, well, I need this column here, not the first column. So we go in descending order, because when it looks at this and goes, is this greater than 90%? Nope. Let's look at the next possibility. Is this greater than 80%? Nope. Let's look at the next one. Is this greater than 70%? Nope. Let's look at the next one. Is this greater than 60%? Yes, I found my answer. That's how it knows that this is the 10th position. You put those two together with the index formula. Array is A2 to M21. Row is from P8, the match margin. And column is P9, the position percentage. And we get our result. This is one way to solve this particular problem. There are other ways to solve this particular problem, and there's more complexity to this too. Now, if you were to come across this kind of situation in your work, you've watched this video, now you know how to solve this. What happens if you come across other situations that you've never seen an answer to before? You can hunt through YouTube and TikTok and any other social media platform out there to try to find an answer, someone who's done it before. Or you can go to a community of people that are experts in Excel who have done it before or know so many different possibilities of formulas that they can probably come up with an answer for you and give you some really good direction and ideas. Now, my community, Excel in You, is exactly that. We're on the Skool platform, and that allows us to communicate with each other, to inspire each other, to share files, to share formulas, to share questions, to ask questions, and to get answers from people who come from all different industries out there, with all different kinds of backgrounds and knowledge and skill in Excel. And we can find solutions for you. And you can probably find some solutions for us too. So that's why we want you there. Now, let's take this another step further. Let's look at what happens if there's more than one data set that you might have to look through. In this data set, there's two different types of product. One is called a CAP 10, and one is called a CAP 5. Depending on which product we're looking at will determine which data set we need to pull information from. Now we have to start using nested formulas to be able to determine which data set we actually want to be searching through to get the right answer every time. Now we have a product category, a margin category, and a percentage category. Our match margin looks a little bit different now. Now it's nested. I have an ifs formula to start this off. I'm looking at two different possible conditions. I'm looking at if the product equals CAP 5 versus if the product equals cap 10. Then the match formula itself looks very, very similar. I'm just determining which product is in use, and my array reference matches the product data set. So for cap 5, that's our second data set, our array is A27 to A46. That's our margin set for cap 5. And for cap 10, our array is A3 to A22, which is our margin set for cap 10. So now, if I change the cap 5 to a cap 10, you'll notice that nothing actually changes in the match margin. Now that's great. That means that the same margins are in both categories. But you can imagine if there was an extra margin in one of the categories, or if there was different number sets within them, how you might need to be able to look up different margins or different data sets depending on what information is housed there, which is why you want to represent both separately based off of the product. The position, it's exactly the same. We're still using the ifs formula. We're still in descending order because we know that the percentage amounts don't change from one to the other, so I don't have to create differing data sets depending on what the product is, which works in my favor. Now I have the same index using helpers, but you'll notice there's a difference in how this index works. First, we have ifs. So again, we're looking at if product is cap 5 or if product is cap 10. The second thing you'll notice is that within the index itself, there's a couple of changes. The first, index can also reference multiple arrays. To reference multiple arrays, we add an extra set of parentheses around the array. So the first array is A3 to M22. That's our cap 10 data set. Our second array is A27 to M26. That is our cap 5 data set. We're still using our match margin for the row and our position percentage for the column. Then there's a number 2 at the end. The 2 tells us which array to look at, array number 1 or array number 2. So cap 5 is in array number 2, hence the 2. For cap 10, same exact information with one change. Cap 10 is in array number 1, so the only change is right here at the end with the 1. Look at array number 1 for this information. This index relies on the help of 2 other formulas that have already been created on my worksheet. What happens if you don't want to use multiple formulas in multiple places and tie them together? That could be difficult to manage because they're in multiple locations. So here's how this looks self-contained. This entire data formula is in one cell right here, and it looks a little daunting, but let me show you how this works. We're still using the ifs formula. We're still looking at if the product is cap 5, and then way over here, if the product is cap 10. This index formula is what we are already using here with the index with helpers. This match formula is what we're using right here in the match margin formula. And the ifs formula here with all the percentages is what we're using for the position percentage formula right here. I just put them there instead of the cell reference that we found in index helpers. So right here where it says R4, I just input this actual formula. And here where it says R5, I put this formula. It results in one cell housing the entire formula from beginning to end, and if I need to make any changes to any portion of this formula, it's all in one location. The tricky part about this is it's all in one location, so it's very long, and you have to understand how to read it to make sure you don't miss any syntax as you go step by step. This is several different ways that we can solve this one problem using the same set of formulas, index and match and ifs. There are even other ways to solve this exact issue, and these are things I've actually gone over with my community on Skool in Excel in U. If you want to learn more about some of those different ways of solving this problem, other problems that you might come across, and solutions for your day-to-day work, increase your productivity, increase your automation, and decrease the time you're spending staring at a computer, scratching your head as to how to find the data within a massive data set, well, our community is the right place for you. It doesn't matter if you're starting from scratch with Excel or if you've been using it for 10, 15, 20 years. There's going to be things that you know and there's going to be things that you don't yet. All the information is there in the community. Whether you're starting from zero or you're already 75% of the way through the entirety of Excel. I look forward to seeing you guys there, and feel free to reach out with any questions. The link to my Excel page is in my bio or in the comments below this video.